Oh, thank you for having me.
I just want to ask first, what was your reaction like when people started calling you the king of sad boy pop? It's the first time I heard anything like that.
I mean, it's a pretty bold title, I will admit. It's kind of intense, but I'll accept it. I think I am a bit of a sad boy, and I think the music is a little melodramatic at times.
Yeah, but I think that's what makes it really beautiful. And now I want to congratulate you by the way on the beautiful debut album of yours. But then before we dive into that, let's just rewind a bit. Let's let your Filipino fans also know where did Conan Gray come from? What's your story? I know that you started with GarageBand and just a cheap microphone taped to a lamp. Can you tell
Yeah.
us about how you started your love for music and all of that?
Yeah, well, it's been a weird journey for sure. I started writing songs when I was 12. I started putting videos up on the internet when I was 9. So it's been a long time of me just kind of existing on the internet. And my senior year of high school, a couple years ago, I made this song in my bedroom. I was just sitting in my bedroom and I taped a really cheap microphone onto a broken lamp and I recorded a song called Idletown on GarageBand and I put it up on YouTube and it went viral. And then from there, it just kind of like, everything happened. It was really random. I wasn't expecting it at all, but I was like, oh, I'm just going to run with it and see what happens. And now we're here, which is really, really exciting and super weird. It happened very slowly, but also very fast.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. So you're sort of used to this whole setup. You know how in the pandemic, a lot of artists would have to learn how to do their own music at home, how to record at home. But that's how you started. Are you used to this whole setup?
Yeah, well, I'm also like, I think I've always been pretty comfortable with like being alone and sitting in my room. It's like what I've done my whole childhood. But the whole entire album I wrote exactly like this, like sitting in bed with my guitar, like my guitar is literally right here. And I just wrote the whole album like this by myself. And making music right now is just the same as it's always been. And releasing the album kind of during the pandemic and over the internet has been very much what I'm used to. So yeah, it's been I've been okay. I've been good.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear, and I think it's something very unique. Also, talking about your childhood, is it true that you moved 12 times throughout your grade school life, thrice during the sixth grade? What was that experience like?
Yeah, I moved around a ton when I was a kid, and it was just as traumatic as you think it is. I switched 3 schools in the sixth grade alone, which was just sixth grade is hard enough as is. And to switch to
Yeah.
schools and also be the only Asian kid in like a just white Texan middle school was like
Ooh.
so intense, and everyone was so mean to me. But I think that that experience and like being very much like an outsider and always being the new kid, like very much fostered my need to start songwriting because it's like I had so much to process. I had so much I needed to figure out as a kid, and writing songs was how I figured it out.
Was it sort of like an escape for you, or it was just something you did naturally, just felt like writing?
It was absolutely an escape to me. It's always been, and when I write songs, I create worlds that I can just kind of like live in and find safety in. And when I listen to songs that I wrote when I was a senior in high school, or songs that I even wrote like a year ago on Kid Crow, it very much just feels like me jumping back into that little bubble of a world that I created to kind of escape from the moment. Yeah.
Well, that escape really, I think it led to something beautiful because a lot of people have different sort of escapes for the problems they go through. But your escape led you. Fast forward to just recently, Taylor Swift actually commended your new album, and you actually describe her as someone who has raised you. Could you tell us what was your reaction like when the one and only Taylor Swift commended your album?
I mean, I was just the most flattered I've ever been in my entire life. She was just the godfather of all of my songwriting ability. She taught me everything that I know about writing songs. And one of the first YouTube videos I ever watched in my entire life was the Teardrops on My Guitar music video on YouTube. And she's just so talented, undeniably one of the best in the world. And it's just so special because, she's my queen. She's someone I've looked up to for so long. And to have her say anything about the album is so special to me. And I've learned so much from her.
Yeah, well, you really deserve it. And so now let's talk about this album, Kid Crow. Is it something you call yourself? Is it like a spirit animal for you?
Yeah, kind of. I think for my friends and I, it was, I wrote the album a lot about like growing up and things like that, and kind of who I am as a person, like just an introduction to what I am. And my friends always joke that I'm very much just like a crow. Like it's kind of just like an inside joke, you know. And I thought that it'd be funny to kind of like let the whole world in on my little inside joke that I'm a crow. I'm very like sarcastic and a little dark at times, but I also like don't take life seriously at all. I've been through a lot. I went through a lot as a kid. I had a pretty like less than ideal childhood, but I don't really wallow in it. I think for me, I just kind of like laugh at my problems. And when my heart's broken, I'm like, whatever. Like I'll write a song called Maniac and just laugh at it. It's like, that's just kind of how I deal with pain. And it just felt accurate for who I am. Yeah.
A lot of people sometimes use that as like a defense mechanism, and people might think they're not being genuine about it, that they talk about the hardships of life and they act like it's all okay. But then where did that mindset come from for you? Because your music is that way. You talk about how life isn't perfect, how all these bad things happen, but you just chill about it. You're okay about it.
I think just like my entire generation, we all just kind of have learned to laugh at pain, and me and my friends are that way as well. Obviously it's not funny in the moment, but to look back at it or reflect on it, you're like, it's pretty funny. Like, it's kind of how I've always dealt with my pain, and everyone deals with their pain differently. And that's so okay. You deal with it the way that you need to deal with it, but that's how I deal with it. I write songs and I talk about my friends and I joke. And then that's just kind of how I've learned to process my emotions. And it's nice to know that other people relate and find comfort in songs that I write about painful experiences that I've gone through, that hopefully those songs can help them go through the same things. Yeah.
So this album has 12 tracks, but there are two short, I don't know how you call it, snippets or interludes.
Yeah.
Online Love and Can We Be Friends. They're both under 1 minute. Why did you decide to have these very short and not have like a normal, 3 or 4 minute song?
Yeah, well, I included those interludes mostly just for the fans. I wanted to give a little bit of insight into like the storyline of the album. The whole album is about someone that I just like fell in love with over the internet. And it's kind of like my little way of speaking to the fans. And Can We Be Friends is actually a message to the fans. I'm saying like, oh, like, thanks for listening to my album. Like, can we be friends? Because the album has all of my secrets. It's my diary. It has every single thing that's ever happened to me. And it's kind of my way of being like, now that you've heard literally everything about me, like you're in the club and you understand, and we're friends now. Yeah.
Now that you're opening up to your fans about your story, you posted a video also with the captions went something like, "I can't believe how you wrote an entire album about someone you didn't even date." Now, how true is this?
I wish it wasn't true, but it is true. I've never dated anyone before. If you know anyone who wants to date me, let me know.
I'm sure I know a lot of people.
But I haven't dated anyone before. And so every song, every love song, every heartbreak song you've ever heard of mine has just been me very sad about someone who didn't like me back.
but does this person know? Like, did you ever talk to this person and say like, this music was actually for you? Anything like that?
I'm a pretty confrontational person. So if I write a song about someone, I'll just like send it to them and be like, I wrote this about you. But I don't know. There maybe some people know. Also, a lot of people think they're about them. I'm like, it's not about you. Trust me. Don't flatter yourself. It's I just kind of let people live with the mystery. I think it's fun for them to like conspire about who it's about, but it's not. No one's right. Not a single person.
Mm-hmm. And now we mentioned about how you're writing this whole album is sort of about another person, but then I'm really interested in the last track, The Story. This is something I'm guessing it's about you. It's about how your story isn't finished. Can you take us through how you decided to make that the last track of your album, what that song's all about?
Yeah, well, I think The Story for me is kind of my first time in music, like really talking about my past in a bit more of like a just kind of non-glamorous, just like this is what happened way. And I grew up in a small town in Texas, and it was conservative, and it was very weird growing up there, and a lot of things happened to me that I never really got past or have never really moved on from and never really will. And so that song is kind of my way of telling people the story of my life, but also the story of like what happened when I was living there, things that happened to my friends and things that happened, basically just things that happened while I was growing up that I think really impacted me. But I wanted it to be the last track on the song, on the album, because I wanted that song to have a message of like, I've been through all of these things, but I had the smallest amount of courage to just keep going. And because of that courage and because of the people who I allowed to love me and the people who I allowed to take care of me, and because of the strength that other people brought me, I was able to get through it. And it wasn't the end of the story. You know, there were so many moments when I was a kid that I felt like I wasn't gonna ever get through it, or I wasn't ever gonna be able to like even grow up, because I just didn't think that I would make it. But I did, and I'm like, okay, you know, and I'm safe, and it wasn't the end of the story, even though I thought it was. So I wanted to end the album on like a hopeful note.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times the album can get pretty dark, and I wanted to just like, it was hard, but like, I just want y'all to know, like, it's gonna be
Just an FYI, I'm actually doing fine.
I'll be okay, and you'll be okay too, you know.
Is it, but you know, looking at, you know, in hindsight, at your childhood, you said you talked about you went through a lot of challenges. Is it something you would want to change, or are you totally okay and actually, you know, happy that you went through all of those growing up?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that happened that I wouldn't wish on anyone. You know, it was painful and it was hard, but I think that the only thing that I can do with the things that happened to me as a kid is hopefully help people who are going through similar situations and help them deal with it, and make them feel like they're heard and have you know, someone that they can find solace in. And I wouldn't change anything. You know, it's what I went through, and I've learned to just kind of accept it. And I'm still recovering and I'm still learning. You know, I'm only 21. I haven't, you know, it's only been a couple of years since I lived in a conservative town in the middle of Texas and was going through a lot. So I'm still learning and stuff, but I just hope that the music can help other people who are in my situation.
Yeah, that's looking at the past, and now looking forward, looking at the future. What are your future plans? Like, what do you have still in store for you? Are there any collaborations that you want to do with any of your friends?
I mean, there's tons of people I would love to collab with. I think for now I'm just working away on my music, and I think people can expect some plenty of music from me in the next year.
And is this 2021, or do you think there's some surprises you can cook up by the end of this year?
I have a few surprises up my sleeve. We'll see.
Ooh, we'll see. Now, you know, talking about how you were supposed to have a tour, but of course the situation, the pandemic and everything. Do you have any plans of going to the Philippines? You know, because the Filipinos, they really do love your music. They really relate with your story. Did you have any plans of going to the Philippines?
I would love to. I think we were planning on coming last time, and then it ended up happening right when the pandemic started. So I was so bummed out. I really wanted to come, but the second that everything's better again and everyone's safe again, I definitely want to try to get there as soon as possible, because I haven't been before and I really want to see everyone there.
Yeah, and you know, it's not just because I'm biased because I'm from the Philippines, but it's a really beautiful place. I'm sure you'd love it. And now, before I let you go and ask for a message for all your fans, I'm curious about, you had one Instagram post where you're trying to bring back crop tops. I could tell by your music videos that you like the 80s, like sort of the throwback fashion. What is it about crop tops that you want to bring it back?
I think that crop tops are just so fun. I don't know why people flash their tummies to everyone. I think it's just a good time. Everyone loves a crop top. I think we should bring it back. I think boys should be wearing crop tops. I think it's time. It's 2020. Boys need to wear skirts and crop tops. It's time.
Yeah. You know, although I love your music, you know, I agree with you on a lot of things. The crop top, I might have to disagree with it. Maybe until I get the body.
Next interview, if you're not wearing a crop top, I'm not answering.
Okay. Well, oh my gosh, now I'm pressured. But anyway, before I let you go, could I just ask for a message from you to all of your Filipino fans?
Yeah. To everyone out in the Philippines, I just want to thank you so much for all of the support. It means so much to me, and I can't wait to actually be able to hug you guys in person and see you guys. And please stay safe.